Welcome to Saulcast. Today we're talking about Better Call Saul Season 6, Episode 12, the penultimate episode, titled Waterworks.
Yeah.
We did our live...
Waterworks is appropriate, because I'm very sad that the show is ending.
Yeah, I know, me too.
But go on with your intro.
We did our live instant take earlier in the week. That was our raw, immediate reactions to the episode. Now we've had a few days to think about it, so this is our full recap and analysis. I'm Gil.
I'm Adam.
Let's get into it. Now, before we get into it, actually, I just posted a poll to YouTube. I want to find out, what do people think is going to be the ultimate fate of Jimmy McGill? And the options we gave were dead, jail, on the run, like cucaracha style, ambiguous, don't stop believing, or other. So we can, at the end of this, I'm sure you and I will talk about where we think it's heading. And we can also check in on the poll, see how it's doing.
What do you think other, like what would fall under other?
Yeah, what would other even be? I guess other could be he went to jail and then got out, and there's a flash forward, so we actually see him just back in civilized society.
I would love that.
That would be other.
Yeah. I want a happy ending for him.
Yeah, I know, me too.
And I want him and Kim to get back together.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot we want that I don't know that we'll ever get.
Yeah, and I want Gus to come back to life.
And Mike.
Yeah, I was just going to say that too.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that.
I wish they knew they were going to do a prequel, because I think they would have given those characters more ceremonious endings.
Yeah.
Not that they were well, Mike's was kind of unceremonious, but it was very important to the plot.
Yeah.
Or to the character development too.
And
Gus's was like pretty bombastic.
Yeah, I would say he probably had the most bombastic death in the series, right? I didn't even catch that. Vince Gilligan actually was asked in an interview recently if there's anything he regretted, or not necessarily regretted, but anything you would change about Breaking Bad now that you know you did the prequel that would have made it easier to do the prequel, right? And he basically said no. You know, he was like, let me think about it, come back to it at the end of the interview, and he did. And he's like, no, I mean, there's so many times where we've wished, like, what if we didn't kill this character? But ultimately, those were challenges that forced us to make creative choices, and we wouldn't want to change anything about the way it turned out.
Well, they like thrive on putting limitations on themselves. Like,
yeah.
There's no harder, unless you're, okay, outside of doing some kind of like time travel type show with like time loops and stuff where you have to avoid paradoxes. Other than that, this show has so many constraints on it, both from the series that preceded it and just from the way they write it.
Yeah. And they even if you didn't have the prequel thing, they do these flash forwards. I mean, they even did that on Breaking Bad. I don't know if you know this, Adam, but when Walt found that machine gun in the back of his trunk, or when he had the machine gun, they didn't actually know what he was going to use it for.
You're using the tone of, I know that you know this.
Yeah, and I know that probably everyone listening to this knows that. Yeah. That's the go-to example of writing themselves into a corner.
One other thing that's really cool is it's not just that they are putting limitations on themselves because they're showing something that must happen in the future, and so now you have to write something that will lead up to it. They also write characters with really like personalities and ethical or lack thereof, like ethical systems built into them, that when the final result happens and the characters do what they end up doing, you end up looking at it and saying they couldn't have done anything else. Right. So like, because it's a character-driven show, the characters can't act in a way that's not reflective of who they really are. A lot of other shows, which shall remain nameless, will have characters just like flip on a dime and do something that's not in keeping with who we thought they were.
Right.
And it's almost like characters just act randomly in some cases. Not in this show.
Right. Is the show plot driven, where you are going to force the characters to fit into where you want the plot to go?
Which it is, in part, because they show us where it's going to go.
Right. But sometimes a writer just wants something to happen, it doesn't fit the characters, and they force it. Or on this show, like we've said a million times, it's character driven.
Yeah.
And that should make it really predictable, right? But the characters are so complicated where sometimes they're a mystery to us, and I think sometimes they're even a mystery to themselves. But that's why you need a writer's room of people to just bounce ideas for 2 years to come up with something that we're not going to guess easily. With that, I guess let's actually get into it. We start off with a little bit more Saul Goodman. We see him bouncing his ball in his office while someone waits to see him.
I love when he bounces balls.
Yeah, just like at CC Mobile.
Yeah.
Back when he wasn't getting any customers. Francesca pesters him, doesn't want to wait around, and lets him know that everyone can hear him bouncing that thing. And I love his response to that. That's the sound of thinking. You should try it sometime.
Is that what all that repeated... Nah, I shouldn't make this joke. I was going to say all those noises I hear from your room.
He knocks over a pillar.
Yeah. That's probably the dirtiest joke I've made on this podcast.
Yeah, that is normally, if you want to hear that stuff, you'd have to go to the Patreon. But we'll
like the actual noises I'm talking about?
Yeah, if you want to see the behind-the-scenes stuff.
No, yeah, but we try to keep it clean most
Yeah,
of
what
the
are
time.
you doing? You're derailing the show right now.
I'm having fun.
I'm out of
You
here.
want to cut this
I'm outta
out?
here.
That's fine.
No. He knocks over a pillar, and it turns out to be fake. So that was a nice little laugh out loud moment there. And then finally, Saul checks himself in the mirror. He looks at the paper, petition for dissolution of marriage between him and Kim, and then calls Francesca and says, "What are you waiting for? Send her in." So we know this is going to lead into the meeting between him and Kim, where they officially dissolve the marriage.
It's interesting because that means he wasn't waiting for Kim to show up. Kim was there already.
Mm-hmm.
He's waiting to, I guess, to be in the place where he wants to let her in. But so what was he doing? Because that meeting went so badly.
Right.
Like, what was he preparing? I mean, realistically, he was probably just getting himself psyched up, like, because he was either uncomfortable with the whole thing or nervous. But it went so badly.
Well, I don't think it really went badly for him. For him, I think it went the way he wanted it to, which is he acted totally unfazed by seeing Kim, pretended he didn't care about her, and got her to leave feeling kind of dejected.
Yeah,
which I think is exactly what Saul Goodman wanted.
Right, he wanted to cement his identity to her, like, I'm not Jimmy McGill anymore.
Yeah.
I'm Saul Goodman. There's nothing left of Jimmy.
Right. It's the classic, you're going to see your ex, and you want to act like, my life is great since I left you, or
like
since you left
You're going
me.
to the high school reunion.
Yeah.
And you want to be like, hey, I started a successful YouTube channel.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's that times like 1,000. And I think, the way I read it is that he genuinely is rattled to see her again, and he needs to psych himself up.
Yeah.
I think he needed some time to figure out, how do I play this meeting? How do I get mentally prepared to see her again? How do I not accidentally slip back into Jimmy McGill? How do I maintain my Saul Goodman facade? That's how I read it.
And it's, the pillar thing collapsing is like, fits perfectly with this because that's a facade that just fell over.
That's true.
The whole thing is a sham. The walls are paper thin. You can like break them open to grab all of his stuff when he has to flee.
Yeah, it's funny, but also just fits the visual motif like perfectly.
Yeah.
Then we get into the opening. We see, once again, the VHS tape is dying, so it's mostly blue screen, but we see a quick flash of a car in the snow in Nebraska, and then we see a shadowy figure, which we'll later find out is Kim having arrived at Albuquerque Airport. And then we see Kim's new life. She changed her hair, changed her fashion style, has a new boyfriend who just returned home.
Yep.
They have a mundane conversation about giving Miracle Whip a try since they didn't have Duke's mayonnaise at the store.
Yep.
And there you go. I was like, what's he doing? Those are the noises I hear from your room all the time.
That's better than yours. The Miracle Whip thing.
Yeah.
That sounds disgusting.
Right.
I'm not even opposed to Miracle Whip. Like, I've eaten probably like half a tub before, just on my own.
Yeah.
But mixing that into potato salad sounds
Tuna
vile.
salad.
Even worse.
Yeah, I didn't think Miracle Whip was a mayonnaise substitute. It's never how I understood it.
I was thinking of Cool Whip.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
I was like, that's weird.
Okay, Miracle Whip is very similar to mayo. I think it's just like soybean oil that's been like whipped up.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's probably it's probably like the margarine equivalent of mayo.
Okay.
Where
That
they're
makes
like,
more
because
sense.
it's made of like chemicals and stuff, it's healthier.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. We ate a lot of margarine growing up.
That's true. Yeah. And now our bodies are probably like 30% plastic.
Yeah.
I remember this like video I saw years ago where they took Cool Whip and dressed it up to look real fancy. and then people were eating it, and they're like, "Oh, this is no Cool Whip."
That's funny.
It's just a placebo thing.
That's how people work.
So the boyfriend says, "What do you think? Should we give it a shot?" The Miracle Whip, and Kim says, "I don't know. What do you think?"
Right. Very un-Kim-like of her.
Yes, very much.
Like right from the get-go, you can tell like she's different now. She's all passive, not really making any decisions, even about small things.
Yeah, and that's we'll go through the major beats of this opening 20 minutes, but it hits that button kind of over and over. So we see them host a little party where it's a very cliched old-timey barbecue where the men are over there drinking beers and the women are over there. One of them offers Sissy a wine cooler, and she says, Marvin doesn't like me to drink. So you can see Kim is just surrounded by people who are not making choices for themselves. Vanilla.
People like boring.
Yeah.
Like
so
boring people.
Because soon I'm going to get to the vanilla or strawberry ice cream thing.
Yeah.
So I thought you were referencing that. But yeah, very vanilla. And very contrary to Kim's old life, where not only did she make choices, but she very consciously made choices. You don't save me, I save me.
Right.
So, I mean, before we go further, I guess let's just talk about this. I mean, why has she changed her appearance? Why has she seemingly stripped herself of everything that made her Kim? And like you said, is just making no choice, not only not making any choices, but also just not offering opinions when asked for them.
Well, I mean, was it during that first? Later when we see what happens on the phone call, Saul accuses her of wearing a hair shirt, right? That's when it happens.
Hair shirt. What does that mean?
Hair shirt. That's something. I don't know if this is like true. I think it's true. Like clergymen back in the day in certain regions of the world would wear like really itchy, uncomfortable clothing on purpose to sort of punish themselves or like asceticism, like live a life free of pleasure and indulgence.
Right.
And I think Saul was right when he said that. I think she's punishing herself. There's multiple factors. She's punishing herself out of guilt and saying, I don't deserve anything like good things. But then the other aspect of it is by leading a very plain, boring life, she's kind of going back to her roots a bit, right? Like she said she didn't want to just like end up working at the local
hinky dinky.
Hinky dinky, right? This is basically what she's doing.
Right.
She's like a hinky dinky person. So I think she's kind of lived enough, and I think basically for the rest of her life at this point wants to just like check out from excitement, like anything too pleasurable or stimulating, and almost avoid temptation. She's basically like cloistered herself.
Yeah, I think that's 100% right. And the part of that most resonates with me when I watch Kim in these scenes is the hair shirt idea, the kind of punishing herself, penance. I think she has that tremendous guilt over what happened with Howard, and she feels like she needs to be punished. So this is essentially self-exile. Not a physical exile necessarily. I mean, in a sense it is because she's not in Albuquerque, but the more important part of that is she's exiled from herself. She is no longer Kim Wexler. I mean, in name she is, but in spirit she isn't. She's not allowing herself to use any of her talents, really. Maybe, to some extent, when she's writing those catalogs, she's doing a good job at it, but she's not pursuing her passions. She's not making any choices. She's not helping people the way she wanted to, and that was her dream.
I think she probably feels that the less power she has, the less harmful she can be. Or she's making herself as harmless as possible.
Yeah, I think that's the other element. For me, the overriding thing is this penance idea, but there's also a fear that when she was allowed to make choices, she made the wrong ones and people suffered and got hurt. So she wants to avoid that and to just make her personality as small and harmless as possible.
Right. Even her posture changed.
Right.
Like, which kudos to Ray Seahorn. Like her acting through and through this episode was incredible. But like she's like, her posture is like this, like she's like hunched. I'm exaggerating, but she's like hunched a little bit. Normally like she's like very upright, shoulders back. She's got this like ponytail and her hair tied back, like very prim and proper, confident. And here, just both in terms of her actions and the way she looks, just is diminished.
Yeah. And I think, there are these kind of complicated reasons we're talking about. And then I think she's also sad.
Right. And this is a totally normal thing to do when you're sad.
Yeah, when you're sad, it means you don't really care about anything. Your desires kind of go away. Your ability to do or care about anything is diminished. Yeah. So I think all of that's kind of in the mix. We also see, as we alluded to it earlier, Kim and her boyfriend make love. And that's when you get the yep.
I don't know if you would call it making love, but they do the thing that they reenact what making love might look like.
Yeah, there you go.
Like there's no love there as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. They watch The Amazing Race. The Amazing Race.
Well, I don't. We shouldn't just skip over that because this show, it doesn't show like this is the most graphically that they've like shown the act so far in this series. Like they make a point of us being able to kind of see it like much more than normal. The closest thing in comparison is when they're like overhearing the phone call where Howard is like basically breaking down. Right, and then they're blurry in the background. Yeah, and the sounds of it are much more like passionate and everything. Much more titillating. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's sort of showing you how meaningless it is when it is purely physical like this. Yeah. When you don't have, or when Kim doesn't have what she had with Jimmy, it's almost so meaningless that they can show it on screen. Right. Whereas it's almost not. It doesn't even feel explicit. Right. Yeah. Because it's just this mundane whatever kind of thing. Right. Which is sad. And then we get to them watching The Amazing Race, where he says, "Hey, did they ever run with the bulls on this show, like in Spain?" Kim says, "Not that we've seen, I don't think." And he offers, "Maybe it's too dangerous. What do you think?" And Kim says, "Maybe." And once again, offers no thoughts on the matter. Right. And also just note the difference between first of all, they're not really watching together. And he's sitting in like a lazy boy type thing. Mm-hmm. Like they can't sit on it together. She's off at the table. Very different. Like we've seen Saul and Kim watch TV together a bunch of times, and it would fluctuate a lot. Sometimes they'd be like really into it together. Other times they'd be kind of separate. But also they'd be watching things that they wouldn't be watching reality TV ever. No. And in fact, they almost never watched anything with color. They'd be watching movies about men trapped in a snowy place somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, no, just every scene here serves to show you how much this Kim is not the Kim we know and love, and not the Kim that she wants to be. And we continue to see that. Well, first off, I noticed that she brushes her teeth incorrectly because she's using an electric toothbrush and she's moving it around. When you're supposed to keep it in one spot, let it do its job, and then you move it. That takes so much restraint, though. True, and it's very true to life because most people brush their teeth this way. So I'm going to let it slide. Heads to bed, not before they set a date to check out the new Outback that recently opened. Right, which again, we keep coming back to this, but it's like, I mean, that does, like, if you were like, Adam, yo, let's go check out this new Outback, like, that would sound fun to me. Yeah. But just for this couple to be, like, for their idea of a date to, like, go check out the Outback, and it's not like he was proposing it. Like, sometimes you can go on like a fun date where the premise of it is somewhat lame, but part of the fun is the irony of the whole thing. Yeah, there was no irony. No, that's like exciting for him. Yeah, and it's which, like, not to crap on this guy, because like he's entitled to. He seems happy. Yeah, right. Like he's no like worse of a. In fact, he's probably a much better person than Kim is. Right. He's probably never accidentally gotten anyone killed. Yeah. Or intentionally set out to ruin another person's life. Right. So it's easy to watch, and this is a theme we'll come back to, I think, but it's easy to watch this show and feel like they're making the normal life seem like a bad thing, but it's not. It's just we've been following the perspective of people who don't have normal lives. Yeah, and it's not the right fit for her. Yeah. This is on the Insider podcast. Vince Gilligan preemptively got defensive, saying, and we're not saying there's anything intrinsically wrong with these lives. I mean, not everyone is a lawyer who goes out there to valiantly fight for justice and all of that. This is fine,
But as we're saying, Kim is intentionally not allowing herself to be herself.
Yeah.
And part of that's the profession, but part of it is, like we said, she's just not letting herself make any choices, and she's purposefully just immersing
herself.
Giving
up on the things that she cared about.
Yeah, exactly. At work, we see some of her boring office job. They plan for Tammy's birthday celebration. This is where one of her coworkers asks what kind of ice cream Tammy likes, strawberry, vanilla, and of course, Kim offers no thoughts or opinions on the matter. And at lunch, they start talking about different drugs.
Oh, yeah.
I really was waiting for someone to be like...
The meth or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. But they quickly turn their attention to Kim's tuna salad and ask what she's eating. She says, tuna salad. I used Miracle Whip instead of mayonnaise. And she says it almost as if she's asking if that's okay, like she's worried about it. And then someone goes, I used almond butter instead of Pete, and then it just cuts off.
Because it's like, who cares? Like, you don't need to see anymore.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say about the drug conversation where they're talking about why would all these like girls be using pacifiers?
Right.
Do you know why that is?
No.
I didn't look this up, but I know that a common side effect of ecstasy is like teeth grinding.
Oh,
and
okay.
So I think the idea, and so like a lot of people who do take it will like chew on gum or something like that. But the pacifier might it's probably just like sensation wise, like exciting or interesting.
Yeah.
To just like have something to like suck on. But then the other thing is like, I think it would stop you from grinding your teeth. Oh,
okay. Interesting. Yeah. I've been trying to think of fun stuff we can incorporate into our finale watch party.
It's like some drugs.
We got to have Cinnabons. Yeah, some ecstasy and pacifiers.
It's going to devolve into some kind of crazy bender where you don't even end up watching the show.
You have like a giant baby head on your head. And then,
where'd that come from?
I've seen, when I was in Miami a few years ago, you were there too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking on Yelp, and I just remember seeing this one club, and all the photos on there were people with giant baby masks on their heads and like in diapers.
It's like the new version of a lampshade.
Yeah. So look forward to that on Monday. Back in her office, the receptionist transfers a call to Kim from Victor St. Clair, who we of course know that's Jimmy, and we're going to finally see the phone call. But they tease us for a little bit first.
Yeah.
Because they focus on her in the foreground, her receptionist, and you think we're not going to actually get to hear it, but we actually finally do. So Gene talks like Saul here. He seems almost oblivious to the gravity of the phone call, just asks how Florida's been treating her, calling to catch up. And I think he clearly gets frustrated at her sort of silence and barely giving him anything. He says at one point, I thought you might want to know I'm still alive. Yep, I'm still out here, still getting away with it. Yeah. So he picks up her lack of speaking. I think he starts to interpret as sort of judgment. Like, I don't want to hear from you.
Yeah.
And Gene asks her to say something, even if it's just to yell at him, to let him know that she still has a pulse. And so she does. She says, you want me to say something? You should turn yourself in. Which reminded me of Mike saying, you wanted me to talk? I talked.
Yeah. Yeah, at the like the group.
At the support group.
Now, I think most of Kim's reaction, I would say like 98% of it was driven by just all of her pent-up emotions and baggage about the whole thing. But she's also a very sharp legal mind. And I think in part her silence at first and her anger, it's not unlikely that like the feds are still keeping their eyes on her.
Right.
Because of her association with him. It's not out of the question that they listen to her calls. Or at least keep tabs on the data. And I think she's probably aware of that too. So when she first realizes that it's him, she's, again, for the most part, just overwhelmed with emotion. But also, it's like incriminating to interact with him, have this knowledge and not do something with it or not tell the police or whatever, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in the mix. I think that's part of it.
That's a small part, but I just feel like it's an easy thing to overlook.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think also part of it, the last time she saw him, he was basically a monster. And then, of course, she's probably followed the news, so she knows about his involvement with Walter White and everything. He's a criminal on the run. There's so many reasons to be caught off guard and not know exactly what to say. And when she tells him to turn himself in, he responds, said the pot to the kettle. Like, why doesn't she go confess if she's the one with the guilty conscience? Right. And he essentially, and he tells her, at this point, anyone that would have a problem with that is dead, including Lalo, apparently. Which I love that he still won't let go of that.
Yeah. Well, specifically, you said Lalo is buried, apparently, which made me wonder if his body had been discovered, or if that was just a turn of phrase.
I doubt it was. No, definitely not discovered, because then they would have discovered Howard's body.
True.
And we know that hasn't been
discovered.
Right. Yeah.
Or they dug that one part, and if they just missed like that 1 centimeter over.
Yeah, if they had dug 1 inch over.
Yeah.
Kim lets him talk for a while, just kind of yell at her. And to me, watching her face, it seems like she wants to say something back to him, but doesn't. And at one point he says to her, we're both too smart to throw our lives away for no reason.
Yeah.
Which, for me, is kind of what Kim is doing. Because there's nothing to say that she can't make choices, pursue her passions. She could still be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of...
she would succeed at basically anything she tried.
Definitely. And
she could start a podcast.
She could do that for sure. And she's taking the penance thing possibly a little too far.
Yeah.
And even the idea of being afraid to make choices because she might hurt someone, like definitely she could find a way to not end up with another Howard situation.
Right, but then there's a whole other part where she just doesn't think like, not only is she afraid, but she doesn't really think she deserves to do those things.
Right, and to me that's the penance piece of it, where she's punishing herself. Yeah. But finally she does say something. She says, I'm glad you're alive, and then hangs up.
Right, and she almost rushed, like it burst out, like, I'm glad you're alive, hung up.
Right. Yeah, I think she couldn't figure out what to say and just got that out.
Yeah.
And then it's time to sing happy birthday.
Yeah.
Now, the very next shot is Kim at Albuquerque Airport, the shadowy silhouette. So before we go into all that...
I think we should talk more about the call.
Okay.
I've heard, like, a lot of people think they should have, like, continued to not let us know the content of the call. Mm-hmm. And part of me wonders, like, what's the idea behind not showing it to us at first and then showing it to us from Kim's perspective? I'm glad they showed it to us. But it's an interesting choice.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, I was thinking about that today. Part of it is not showing it to us is just interesting. Yeah. It does just make you sit there and wonder what was said on that phone call.
That's like part of good storytelling, is it engages you.
Yeah. And we, even not knowing the content of the phone call, we got enough of it from Gene's perspective. All we needed to know is he called, got rejected, or didn't get the answer he wanted, and it ripped open the Kim wound. Knowing the exact details of the conversation where it prompts Kim to go confess, that's more important to know now that we're with Kim. And that's, with Kim, it would be hard to understand why she decided to go confess if we didn't hear the phone call. So I think part of it is just you were able to withhold information and the story still made sense. So they kind of waited as long as they could before they had to tell us the content of it. And then I think part of it is also letting us be with the right character. So now that we're with Kim, we need to hear that phone call. Mm-hmm. When we were with Gene, I don't think we necessarily needed to.
As you're talking, it gives me, like, when you're saying part of the explanation has to do with whose story we're following. Mm-hmm. Another way to look at it through that same point of view is it kind of Saul didn't get what he wanted from the phone call, and so it's almost as if he wasn't hearing her. Right? Like all he really heard from her response of like turn yourself in was he just immediately became defensive, got angry at her because he didn't get what he did want from the call, which was maybe some kind of positive reception. Mm-hmm. I don't think he was like expecting, we're gonna get back together now. Right. But just something. He wanted to feel like she was glad to hear from him. Yeah,
there was no content in you should turn yourself in. Yeah. He didn't even process that as a realistic option in any way. Mm-hmm. It kind of bounced off the Saul Goodman protection barrier.
Yeah.
So
it didn't really penetrate his brain, so it also didn't get to the viewers.
Yeah, I think that's right. Nailed it. Yeah, exactly. We've once again been able to rationalize the choices that these writers made.
Right, and I always will. Except for a couple things. But
now, why did Kim decide to turn herself in, and not turn herself in, but confess essentially after this call?
Complicated question. Mm-hmm. One thing that I think on a practical level, knowing or having it affirmed to her that everyone involved is dead now and gone, if she does it, it doesn't have far-reaching consequences for other people.
Right.
That's one aspect. I think another aspect is hearing from Saul, just like all these things that she was trying maybe to bury by living this boring life, all came back to the surface from that phone call. They hadn't spoken in 6 years, so I can't imagine what like an eruption and disruption that would be like inside of her. And also I think knowing that Saul is out there, that he is still getting away with it, it to her feels like an injustice.
He can't keep getting away with it.
And so like if she wants to like remember with who was the guy who wouldn't leave his house? Mr. Acker?
Ackerman.
I think it was just Acker.
Okay, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was Mr. Acker. He was right that she likes to try to tip the scales like of justice like in the world and through her own way. And I think in part, okay, if Saul's not going to turn himself in and he's still out there, like there's something messed up about that. So the next best thing I can do to right all these wrongs is to turn myself in.
Yeah, and I think initially she really could not go and confess because those people were alive. That might mean she gets herself killed because she knows too much. She was at Gus's house. If she talked and she was seen as a risk, someone who might leak information, they might...
little rata.
Yes. Yeah. Gus might just have her killed. And as much as Kim needs to be punished for her role in what happened to Howard, I think the punishment needs to fit the crime. She did not kill Howard. And I don't think execution is the right sentence here.
I agree with that. That's a hot take, but...
Oh, yeah. Well, some people did respond when I said, I hope Kim, when she left Jimmy, I hope she goes on to have a happy life.
Yeah.
And some people said, like, why did she get off scot-free? As I started to think about what would redemption actually look like, and at least at the time, her hands were pretty tied. I mean, at minimum, she made sure she would never do anything like this again, and she learned her lesson. What more could she do at that point? So if she does want to confess, she kind of has to wait for everyone to die. And once she's immersed herself in Kim 2.0, which maybe it should be a regression, so it's like Kim, like alpha version over in Florida, I think she's just trying to move on and not think about this stuff. So she's not keeping a tally of when can I confess.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Yeah.
So even if she maybe in her mind knew everyone was dead, because I think a lot of this would be public knowledge, even if she knew, having this reminder right now.
That's a trigger.
Right? Yeah, it's a trigger plus having that wound reopened. And that's kind of what happened to both of them. There's a couple of key parallels between Jimmy and Kim. First, what happened with Howard and then the breakup, that set them both on two different paths to immerse themselves in sort of an alternate persona to deal with the trauma.
True.
Jimmy immersed himself in the Saul Goodman persona. Kim immersed herself into the meek version of herself persona, Florida Kim. And now here we have another parallel where this phone call reopens both of their wounds. For Jean, reopening that wound means he regresses back into Saul Goodman. For Kim, it's like she regresses back into actual Kim, and it reopens all that guilt and trauma, and it's time to go confess.
Yeah.
So there's a logistical, I'm reminded that I can without getting killed, and the wound is open again. I'm feeling all that pain all over again.
Yeah, and like Kim and Jimmy had a lot in common, but one key difference was that for all the bad that Kim did, she did at least care about doing good in the world, or doing what she thought was right and good, even if she didn't follow through on it, or she did it in kind of this underhanded way where she feels like she's making up for other things that she was doing. That's still miles ahead of Jimmy's take on everything.
Right. Now Jimmy did have a conscience at points, like we've brought it up a few times, where he saved Irene's reputation by tanking his own.
Yeah.
And we've definitely seen, he had a soft spot for Esposito.
Mm-hmm. Or when he heard that one of his former clients when he was doing elder law had died when he was working at the cell phone store, CC Mobile. He like looks a little shaken up and sad about it, and he's like asking genuinely about how she was doing and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah, but I'll definitely agree that Kim, I think it's a little bit more at the forefront of her mind than it is for Jimmy.
It's an actual aspiration of hers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Kim heads to Albuquerque, and she heads to the courthouse, where she sees a young woman doing some PD work. I think just very clearly reminds her of herself.
Totally.
She even has a ponytail. Mm-hmm. And actually, I wanted to correct you from earlier because I think we're going to get emails about this. But you mentioned Kim in Florida having a ponytail.
No.
Oh,
I said in her before Florida she used to, and I'm saying in terms of her being very like straight laced.
Okay.
In Florida, she has like her hair is down and she has like some bangs.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. All right. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. I did mess up some other things in the previous episode, which we can talk about later.
That was the only one I was really worried about. Now, some people thought it would be interesting if the girl that she sees at the courthouse was Esposito grown up. The girl that wanted the scholarship but got rejected because the black mark on her record, shoplifting.
I don't think it's been enough time. Has it?
Well, let's see. It's been 6 years. It might not be enough time, and I don't know. It doesn't even matter. I don't even want to do the math.
It's like fan fiction.
I just think that would be a little Easter eggy to me. I don't think we need that. And it was more Jimmy that saw a kindred spirit in her. Yeah. So this would kind of be like Kim looks at her, wouldn't even know who that girl was. So that would purely be for us. Right. Like if she had a little name tag that said her name.
Which is fine if on the Insider podcast, one of the writers is like, I like to think that was an older version of this person. Like, okay.
Right.
That's like interesting.
Yeah. But they didn't say that. So Kim heads to Cheryl's place and hands her
I just want to say I like that they showed us the parking lot.
Oh, that's right.
That's the last time we're ever going to see that parking lot.
Yeah, and that's where we see Mike was replaced by a machine.
Yeah. Which I think is appropriate because in the end, like a lot of what this series has kind of affirmed for us is the way Mike was he's the guy who could execute and get tasks done. Mm-hmm. Like, and in the end, he was, I don't think he was taken advantage of because he knew what he was getting himself into, but he signed up to be a soldier for Gus. Mm-hmm. That's what his life amounted to. It was just this tool for accomplishing other people's goals, doing their dirty work because he wanted to make money for his family.
Yeah. So
just like the machine there wants to make money for its
that's right.
Machines.
It's kind of sad. Yeah, that felt like our goodbye to Mike. It was just seeing that machine.
Yeah, it kind of was.
Yeah. So Kim goes to see Cheryl, hands her that written confession, which explains everything that she and Jimmy did to Howard, how Howard was killed and all of that. And we assume that she was at the courthouse to drop off that affidavit.
Yeah.
Amazing scene.
So good.
Just heartbreaking just to see silence scrolling across different parts of the confession.
Just the way that they did it visually was so cool. They showed us all these little snippets of it. And, you know, a lesser show would have just like heard a voiceover of Kim being like, "Dear Cheryl, I'm so sorry to tell you."
Yeah. And there's no...
Like, it was really intense.
Very intense. And the only thing you really hear is the occasional gasp or heavy breathing from Cheryl. So it's similar to what you see on the bus. You sit in that moment. This isn't just Kim drops off the letter and then we know Cheryl got it. We have to sit there with Kim watching this woman learn that Kim was partially responsible for her husband getting killed, tarnishing his reputation. So... just amazing to watch. Cheryl asks about the body like we alluded to earlier. Kim says they probably won't find it. And Kim tries to reassure her. Howard didn't suffer. It was over in an instant. Yeah. Now, and I don't know that Kim even really believed that as she was saying it. Because yes, Howard did not suffer from the bullet. But he certainly suffered that entire day.
Well, and as soon as she said that, in my head I was like, he suffered a lot, just not from the thing that killed him directly. Yeah,
you gave him the worst day of his life, or at least it's got to be down there at the bottom 5 worst days.
I don't see how it could be any worse than that.
Chuck dying and finding out you were responsible for it?
This is definitely worse.
This is worse?
Your entire reputation crumbles, and then you get murdered.
Well, he doesn't know he got murdered. Just up until that point.
That's true. I don't know. We have to see how fast can the brain cell, like, can the nerves in his ear from that bullet.
Yeah, one last neuron was like, this was...
Yeah, he probably died before he could know what was even close to what was happening.
Right. Second worst day of my life behind Chuck. And then as that bullet was burrowing into his brain. You know what?
Like, this is the worst day of my life. Dead.
Yeah, so he suffered in that sense. Well, he also had to stand there and see the gun and think, wow, am I about to die? So...
I think he was a bit harrowed at the time and like nervous. I don't think he feared for his life yet.
At minimum, it was a very uncomfortable situation.
Yeah, and scary.
Yeah. So Cheryl replies that their lies, the picture they painted of Howard, is all anyone remembers now. Kim says she wants to change that. And then Cheryl asks if Kim will go to jail. She explains that, like we said earlier, they have her affidavit. It's up to the DA if they want to prosecute her or not, and they probably won't because there's no physical evidence and no witnesses other than her ex-husband, assuming he's still alive. So she's still a little bit covering for Jimmy.
Yeah, which is, I think that's a big problem here in terms of like Kim's psyche. I don't think if what she's looking for is some relief to this guilt, that's the final step, is giving up Saul, or at least acknowledging the truth, which is that he's alive, that they were in contact.
Right.
But in the end, deep down, she still loves him, and she's completely torn, I think, and she just can't give him up.
Yeah. And I think I was saying the other day that I don't know how much Kim could really give him up. It's not like she knows where he is.
True, but even just to say that they were in contact.
Right, say they were in contact, and she could certainly help them find Jimmy because, Jimmy would love to speak with her again. And I don't know the exact logistics of it, but even if it was, if he reaches out to you again, let us know. We could track the call or whatever. So, she's definitely holding something back. And I think that's part of what might make this confession fall a little flat for her.
Yeah.
Cheryl threatens, I could sue you in civil court, take everything you've got. Kim says, yeah. And then Cheryl asks, why are you doing this? Cut to Kim in her car driving off. So I think even for Cheryl, obviously she would rather know this than not know it. But I don't know how much I don't think she feels great walking away from this.
Yeah, and also from Cheryl's perspective, it's Kim is basically doing this at the point where there's potentially no consequences for her.
Yeah.
All this does is potentially relieve some of her guilt, and I don't even think it will really do that because she held back on a critical detail.
Right.
So this is kind of a half measure.
Yeah. And also when Cheryl threatens to take away everything she's got, I think Kim
just the least of her concerns.
Yeah, she presents herself as such a sad sack at this point anyway. I don't think Cheryl will take much pleasure.
She's like, okay, you can take my boyfriend.
yeah, there you go. So I don't even think she could. It wouldn't be that much pleasure in tearing Kim down at this point for Cheryl, even if she wanted some kind of revenge.
Right. So it's still it's definitely the right thing to do. Cheryl deserves this kind of closure, deserves to know the truth. Howard posthumously deserves to have his reputation cleared.
Yeah.
Deserves for people to know he didn't commit suicide.
Yeah.
So she's doing something good here. I just think from the perspective of her own conscience, she knows that she didn't go all the way through with this.
Yeah, agreed. And then we get to the big scene where Kim is on the bus and we just sit there and watch as she slowly has a breakdown. She starts sobbing and a stranger places her hand on Kim's shoulder. And
I like that you can just kind of see it.
It
reminded me of that GIF of like someone crying, and then you see like a broom come like from the edge of the screen to comfort them.
What I was thinking watching it the second time is I would feel so nervous if I was the person who had to put my hand on her shoulder, because I was like, she is doing so much work for this scene, and if I screw it up, like I trip into her lap or something accidentally, and they have to redo the take, I would feel really bad.
Yeah.
And I do need to correct myself. I think I already did on the instant take, but they did only do 2 takes for this scene.
Wow.
And Vince Gilligan said we could have used the first take. It was perfect, but I just could not stomach, I need to have that second take just in case.
That's like I think most people in like the industry are like that, right?
Yeah. You don't want to walk away and be like, wait a minute, I didn't notice that one thing. I wish I had a second take.
That scene was one of the all-time great scenes in like television history.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just on its own, the fact that you watch the entire progression happen in one take again, you're just sitting there, you see the emotions slowly grow on her face. Really sad to watch. And I think it was good to have us, you might ask, why do we need to spend 15 minutes over and over hitting that button that Kim isn't making any choices about the mayonnaise? She's not making any choices about the birthday cake. Like at a certain point you get it. But I think you need to feel the frustration. You need to really miss the old Kim.
Yeah.
You need to kind of start mourning the old Kim, so we can be with her crying, basically, in this scene.
I felt sad the entire next day.
Yeah.
Like, I just felt off the whole day and kind of melancholy. And I knew it was because of this.
Yeah, I mean, we've been with this character for nearly a decade now. So to see her reduced to this state, it's tragic. It's awful.
And now, here's what I'm thinking was going on in her head at the time. Now, when before the Waterworks really start, she's kind of, you can see the sadness building up. And at one point you see her kind of shake her head no, a little, just like very slightly. But I think that was that's because she's reacting to thoughts that she's having. And I think that they built up this whole thing of whenever Kim is on a road, she is weighing decisions. Now she's on a road, but importantly, she's not behind the wheel. She's on a bus, which I think is like another way of like signifying her passivity in the whole thing. There's that. And then there's also what's left to decide here? She confessed already. The last decision there is what do I do about Saul, knowing he's out there?
Right.
And I think the shaking her head was like, she can't do it. She can't give him up. She can't turn him in. She can't work against him. So I think that was that element of it. Obviously, there's so much more there too in terms of emotion. Like only way I can really sum it up is she ruined her life.
Yeah.
Like she will never be able to get over this. She'll never be able to be happy or forgive herself.
Right. And I also think, so I already said that the phone call with Gene ripped open the wound, right? She probably does her best not to think about what happened with Howard. She probably does her best not to think about the tragedy of what her life has become. The fact that she's given up everything she wanted to do with her life and is in this kind of self-exile. When that wound gets ripped open by talking to Gene, now she's thinking about all that stuff. But I still think at that point she's probably trying to keep her emotions in check because now she has something to do. I need to keep it together so I can get to Albuquerque, write this affidavit, go see Cheryl.
She has purpose again.
She has purpose, and she has reason to keep herself together. Once that's done, now it's just her and her thoughts. She's just sitting on a bus, and it's like a pressure valve releasing. And so I think she's now, plus she saw that young lawyer at the Albuquerque courthouse.
Right, that's what I used to be.
That's what I used to be.
If I made different choices, maybe I'd be happy.
I could still be some version of that. And then obviously she got very little in the way of positive feedback for the confession. She made it, and didn't seem to make anything better right away. So now that she's just sitting there with her thoughts, the pressure valve is released. I think she's mourning all of that. And the shaking her head no thing, I say maybe. Maybe she's thinking about whether or not to turn in Jimmy. I don't see how it's possible that she didn't think about that and that it's not on her mind. But it also feels like one of those subtle things that I don't know how you could.
There's no way to be certain about that unless
Right.
they tell us on their podcast or something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I agree. It's completely open to interpretation. It could just be like shaking your head. It could just be one of those subtle movements. It could have just been a random thing.
Or it could be, what the hell have I done? I can't believe this. Yeah. So many things in the mix and so many reasons why she would be crying. Right. Part of it could also be that the confession does feel a little hollow now at this point. So So yeah, a lot of reasons why she'd be crying.
And I just want to add, I don't really think she's weighing the decision of whether or not to rat on him. Mm-hmm. I think she just isn't going to. I think the shaking. I don't know why I feel so strong. That little movement impressed itself on me like this. Yeah. But to me, it felt more like just affirming, like I can't do it.
Yeah.
Just that feeling. I don't think it was like should I, shouldn't I? No, I shouldn't.
Yeah. No. I think that's a totally reasonable.
It was just a feeling of powerlessness.
Yeah.
Like in a sense, not only is she very passive in all these many ways that we've talked about, but she's also, in the end, despite all the times we felt she was taking the wheel with the Saul Kim relationship and all of their scheming, mm-hmm. in the end, she ends up kind of being the passive one.
Right. Yeah, she very much feels like a passenger, which is kind of interesting because a lot of people were complaining or just observing that it feels odd the first half of the season to essentially watch Jimmy be a passenger.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing her as a total passenger in her own life. And like you said, we're literally seeing her on a bus here mm-hmm. when we're used to so many Kim driving scenes. One thing that struck me too is that this is a type of tragedy you don't often see shown on TV or in film. We're so used to the death tragedy, but we don't often see, the idea of wasted talent mm-hmm. or the idea of just, I guess you see missed opportunity a lot, but this person was capable of so much, Kim, and not just success for herself, but think of all the people she could have helped. And
right, she turned down the opportunity to go lead that organization to help children,
right,
so that she could go kill Howard.
Yeah, so that bus scene just hits really hard mm-hmm. in a way that you're just not used to. Yeah. You don't often see that sort of tragedy on display. So that's the last we see of Kim this episode, and then we get back to Gene. So he's breaking into the cancer guy's house, and his name is Kevin, but I think if I say Kevin, I don't know if everyone knows that. So from this point forward...
Yeah, almost no one, probably.
From this point forward, I'll start calling him Kevin.
Okay.
He finds
Mr. Cancer.
He finds him still passed out on the floor. Gene takes the pictures of the documents and then sees his investment portfolio is worth $700, $300. I don't know why.
737.
Yeah, for some reason I struggle with this number every time. I'm like 700, 300, and 7. Yeah, 700, 300. What the heck? Oh my God! I just say the number.
I want you got it.
$737,000.
You totally messed that up.
No,
you got it.
That was right. Which is the same amount of money that Walt needed so his family could live happily without him and the kids could go to college.
And the plane that crashed over ABQ was a 737.
It was 737.
I accidentally said 747 last episode. In fact, I was like, I don't think it was a 737. I think it was a 747. It was a 737.
Yeah, you're right.
Surprisingly, I didn't get that much flack for that. Although I also kind of don't read the comments because I'm afraid.
Yeah, I've been deleting all those comments. So
protect me.
I don't know. Do you read meaning into that, or is it just it's the same number?
Little Easter egg, I think. I don't know. They did okay. So one thing they played with in Breaking, I was gonna say the Walter White timeline.
Yeah.
In Breaking Bad was the notion of like this money is out there if Walt needs it, if Walt wants it. He needs to feel that he kind of earned it himself and created it himself. And in the end, it's not even really about the money at all or saving his life or for his family. It's just he just wanted to like live. He wanted to do the opposite of what Kim did.
Right.
And just like ball out before he died.
So this is one more time pushing the button of you don't need to kill a bunch of people or sell drugs to get the money you need. Yeah, that was kind of, if there's anything there, that's kind of how I read it too.
Yeah. And it's like just a nice little like, remember that?
That's the main way I read it.
Yeah.
Now, Gene uses a lamp to look for passwords. Mm-hmm. Then he notices they're all taped to the bottom of the lamp, which is funny.
Yeah.
Then the job is done. Jeff shows up. Gene prepares to leave, then decides he's going to hang out a little bit. Heads upstairs, pours himself a drink. Meanwhile, outside, the cops show up. They're parked behind Jeff, eating a couple sandwiches. Gene observes that Kevin is a hat man. Says it to himself. He's like, "Oh, you're a hat man, are you?" Mm-hmm. And then he sees the man's dog in an urn. It's ashes.
He sees the dog in the urn.
Which I feel like
it was preserved in like a glass like jar of formaldehyde.
Now, this kind of reminds me of Howard, where they wanted to make sure they got us to sympathize with Howard as much as possible before killing him. Here, they're like showing you how nice Kevin was to him, offers him the cab, and now like if that wasn't enough, see how much he loved his dog.
Yeah,
and it worked on me. Also, the dog died in 2004. What else died in 2004? Jimmy and Kim's relationship. That's when they broke up. And that was before the big time skip to the Saul Goodman timeline. He notices the man is awake. Panic. The man sits at the bed of the stairs. So Gene picks up the urn and prepares to smash it over his head, but then sees that the guy's asleep.
Now, I would like to counter something that many people are saying about this.
Okay.
He definitely could have killed the guy with that urn, but he also could have just knocked him out.
Yeah, no part of me, even on the Insider podcast, I think they were like, he's going to kill this guy?
He totally could kill someone.
I think it was kind of said in jest. But yeah, I agree. I mean, smash it over his head.
Yeah.
Hopefully knock him out. I don't think Gene was going to kill him, I guess unless absolutely necessary.
I mean, from behind like that, like, how does he know the right amount of force to use?
Yeah.
I don't know how hard I'd have to hit someone to knock them out but not kill them.
Yeah.
So you're definitely... Someone who's willing to do that should be treated... It should be treated as attempted murder.
Yeah.
Yeah,
agreed.
Yeah.
Though, just in spirit, though, was it attempted murder? No.
That said, we definitely... He shows later with the cable, like, we see something even worse than that.
No, you're just going to tie her up.
Yeah.
That was one of the comments that
in
really? Response to us, yeah. Now, so outside... Jeff, he's looking at the cops behind him, slowly puts the car in drive, speeds off, crashes into a car.
Swerves. It's very, cartoonish.
I laughed very hard at that moment.
Yeah.
Now...
we needed a laugh.
We lost a fan, thanks to that, actually. Because...
we lost all credibility.
You saw that, yeah.
You told me about this. Yeah.
We entertained the idea on the Instant Take, that's what the Instant Take is for. Is raw, immediate reactions.
Right.
And someone...
It's an open... We should be able to say anything.
Yeah, exactly. It's a safe space. But not as safe as we thought. Someone proposed the idea that maybe Jeff crashed on purpose to create a diversion because he figured Gene couldn't get outside because the cops were there. Watching it again, very clear that Jeff panics. Yeah. It seems like there's nothing intentional about it.
That's how I watched it the first time. But even just thinking, even before I saw comments about this, I was like, it could be a diversion or it could be a combination of I got to do something to take the heat off of Jimmy.
Right.
Especially, we've already seen his willingness. Buddy in that situation probably would have just bailed, and left him there.
Right.
Maybe, unless he feared that there would be repercussions for himself, which is possible. But if Jeffy was doing that to try to save Saul, I don't think it's because he thought that if I don't, I'm going to get in trouble with him. I think he would be doing it because this guy has become an influence on him, and he feels like he's one of his henchmen. He's one of his he's like an apprentice.
Yeah.
That said, my first read of it was that he kind of panicked.
Right. Yeah, that was my first read, and watching it again, it's hard to read it any other way. And then Tom Schnauz tweeted a couple hours ago that, he just panicked and did something stupid.
They're so smart.
For whoever emailed us and said we lost all credibility because we entertained an idea, for a couple minutes, I expect a written apology.
Well,
I want a full affidavit, like what Kim wrote for.
I want one
Cheryl.
Copy with us and one with the police.
Yeah.
I think that there's nothing. Even if Schnauz is saying he panicked. I'm sure that as they were writing it, they were it's also, one could interpret this as he was panicking a bit, but also was I got to do something here.
Right.
And so he did something to get the police's attention.
Yeah.
I think that's still, it's a valid interpretation, even if it turns out not to be the correct one, just because we were given the answer.
Right. If he had said it was on purpose and I rewatched the scene, I could see it that way.
You could talk yourself into that. Yeah.
You could talk yourself into it. Yeah.
It was hilarious though.
Yeah, it was.
And the way he
moment.
falls out of the cab after.
Yeah, just looks up totally bewildered.
Yeah.
Then we revisit Saul. we continue from the earlier scene. Kim's in his office, and they sign the papers. Like we talked about earlier, Saul is in full-on Saul mode the whole time and just acting like he doesn't care. He says, so, Florida. He says it 4 times, actually. Yeah. Florida, Florida, Florida. Why there? And Kim starts to answer, I guess. Doesn't matter. Doesn't have to make sense. Hey, I got to tell you, I think you're going to regret not taking your share of the Sandpiper money. Which I think we talked about this a while ago.
That's the last thing she wants.
Yeah, I think that was not surprising, right? It's like blood money. She wants nothing to do with
definitely.
it. And then when Kim leaves, Saul tells her to have a nice life. Yeah. And of course, that's when Emilio comes in and says, I don't do no paperwork.
Yeah. That was awesome.
And I like that Kim shares kind of one last look with Francesca, because the two of them definitely became friends as the series went on. And you could see when Jimmy was becoming Saul and was recruiting Francesca to come back, I just remember the relief when she bumped into Kim.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Kim.
Like an actual nice person.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think what's interesting about this scene, we talked about the hour of prep before Kim walked in, which I interpreted as Jimmy kind of psyching himself up and preparing for this meeting. That tells me that this is one instance where he's not on autopilot. 99% of the time, he is just Saul Goodman by nature. He's so immersed in the role. But here, I feel like he must have had to put effort into putting on this act for Kim.
Yeah.
Which is just interesting.
And it fit, like, that's really good acting on Bob Odenkirk's part, because when he says, Florida, 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 right, that's 3, but then the first one he said, just like in genuine response.
Yeah, it was
Florida.
Like, Florida. Right.
Like, that came across as very forced and, like, acted. Yeah. So either either Odenkirk did a terrible job there, or he did a really good job, which is, I think, the case.
Yeah, the Saul Goodman character, after watching Jimmy McGill for so long, feels a little bit forced and a little bit like overacting, but that's the character. That's the character. That's what it is.
Here's a question. Why this scene at this point in the episode?
I'm going to throw it back at you. I feel like you have an answer.
Okay, so they show it to us while he's in the guy's house, like snooping around and like dilly-dallying.
Yeah.
I think that it's... I don't know. I shouldn't have asked you because I don't know the answer. I do think it's significant, though. I think they're like showing us... He has this very hollow experience with Kim. He's putting on this act, right? And I think, like, without her, he's kind of this shell of a person. Like, they're signing divorce papers. It's clear that their separation is like complete now.
Right.
And the person we see before us looks like a fake. And it is. He prepared for this. He psyched himself up. He's doing a persona. And like, even the whole, like, Florida, why there? And as she's in, it doesn't matter. Like, I think he chose to cut her off and dismiss the whole, like, her decision making. He didn't want to hear it. Jimmy, without love in his life, like without this person that he cares about, is this kind of like hollow person whose like life feels pretty meaningless.
Yeah.
And similarly, just like the way he's like just dilly-dallying around the house feels purposeless. It's self-destructive, really a bad idea, but he just doesn't he doesn't care. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm just, this is me trying to understand, like, why cut it in there? Like, something either reminded him of that, or they want us to be reminded of what happened, or see what happened there.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. Part of it might just be a logistical decision.
Like, we have to fit it in somewhere.
Well, yeah, the situation resolved itself, right? Jeff crashed, and now Gene can escape. So we're done with that part. Now let's check back in with Saul, because I guess I don't see any obvious parallel in that moment. But I am glad you brought it back to that moment, because I think we should talk about why did Jimmy decide to hang out in the house longer? Why did Gene do that? I think there's a couple things in the mix. I mean, one of them is it's the whole addict thing where he's on the high of the heist right now.
Like, I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing right now.
Yeah.
And for every moment that he remains there, he's getting away with it. Even if he were to eventually get caught there, every moment up to it, he was in the act of getting away with it, and he was getting high off of it.
He wants to push it as far as he can. And it makes sense that he would savor this moment as much as he is, because this is the first time in this whole scheme he gets to get his hands this dirty.
Yeah.
He's the one who feeds them drinks all night, but now he's in the house. It's a more stressful situation, which I think feeds that.
He thrives on that.
He thrives on it,
Like
exactly.
the first thing it reminds me of is when he's in the locker room at the country club.
Right.
You know? And when he's like out there is accusing everyone of anti-Semitism.
Yeah. Or stripping naked so nobody looks at him.
Exactly.
So I think that's a big part of it. And then I do wonder if a part of it is that little Jimmy McGill voice somewhere deep in his brain saying, let's stay here and get caught.
Yeah. So elaborate on that, because I had a similar feeling.
Well, I don't know that I have that much more to say other than this Gene existence is awful. Like you've said, he's a husk of a human being. He probably does carry guilt the same way Kim does, and not just for Howard, but also Chuck and so many other things. So that guilty conscience might want to get some relief, and the way to do it is to be punished. Or at least that's one important part of the process. So that part of him might be crying out to say, push this far enough that it breaks and you get caught.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even I didn't think about it to that level, but just watching him mosey around, I was like, it's like he wants to get caught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's frustrating to watch because, get away, but
like,
to
what are you doing?
end?
He's like picking up a cigar and like inspecting it and pouring himself a drink.
Yeah.
It's so they know what they're doing with this, because it's so like one of the best things about just the experience of watching the show is watching like these processes of people doing really competent things, like doing things really competently. Like for some reason, the first thing that came to mind was when Mike was stuck in Mexico, like recovering from his wounds, and he was in that kind of safe house, and he didn't have a charger for his phone, so he built one, out of straw, and he jiggered a charger for himself, and by the time it was done, the woman who lived there just handed him one. Right?
Yeah.
But it's so satisfying just to watch someone apply their mind to something, and this show portrays it really well. And so this is like, it's like so frustrating.
It's odd to watch. We obviously see a lot of self-destructive behavior, but usually it's towards some end. Like, at least we can understand they're trying to dare down Howard so they can get the Sandpiper money, and you can question the motivations and everything. But here, it's pure self-destructiveness. Right. There's nothing to be gained here that could be defined in any tangible way. Mm-hmm. So it's unusual to see. It's frustrating to see, but that's all part of it. Going back to Saul Goodman, Kim leaves the office, bumps into Jesse.
Oh, yeah.
And I already said this on the Instant Take, but I'm going to say it again just so I can show the two clips. But the reveal is very similar, and I have to think purposefully similar to the reveal of Walt in the Breaking Bad finale. Skyler's smoking, and then it zooms in slowly to reveal Walt standing behind a pillar. Here, Kim smoking, pan around to show Jesse hiding behind a pillar.
Now, is that just a fun parallel, or is there any significance to that? Like, is there any reason to compare Skyler and Kim versus Walter and Jesse?
I don't know. I
think we're digging too deep.
Yeah, I think it's a fun comparison. There are definitely parallels between. You can draw parallels between Skyler and Kim, but I don't know how. Yeah. There's nothing that jumps out at me.
There's like the most base ones that we see on the YouTube comments of like, can't stand these. They're not letting the guy that we love on the show like do whatever they want.
Right. What a jerk!
They're just such a buzzkill.
She's not letting Walt cook meth and ruin their lives. Yeah. Now I love.
I can see where they're coming from.
Yeah. Right. I love this moment. I love this whole scene between Kim and Jesse. It almost feels like this mystical, important moment in time that we never got to see. Somebody pointed out that we very rarely see it rain on this show. Mm-hmm. And also I pointed out on the Instant Take that the rain, to me, really makes the rest of the world look black and white. So
they're like meeting in this weird nexus of the universe that's like outside space and time.
That is exactly what it feels like to me. Like, this should not be happening.
Right.
And then there's the parallel of Kim is on her way out of the game just as Jesse is about to enter it.
It's like this revolving door.
And that revolving door is Saul Goodman's office.
Yeah.
Which almost makes it feel like Saul's office is this portal into hell. and Saul is the gatekeeper. And it's like
he's like the devil tempting you to come like play blackjack with him.
Right. Yeah. Or a parallel I would draw is to Red Skull in the MCU. Uh-huh. So he's a jerk in that movie, in Captain America. And then eventually...
he's like basically a Nazi, right?
Essentially, yeah. And eventually you find out that he's eternally trapped to be this person who guards the Soul Stone. This is like Jimmy is now in purgatory, and he's assigned to be Saul Goodman guarding the gate to the game, which only leads to chaos and just awful things for everyone.
There's a lot more there. Like, even his whole persona, like very bodacious. No, not bodacious.
Bombastic?
Yeah, kind of. There's another word I'm looking for, but I can't find it. But the idea of him having, like, remember he basically had like a circus tent up when he was selling cell phones and stuff. Like, he's like this ringmaster. It's just like, it's the perfect kind of like image, like that whole revolving door into the game. Like,
you could very much see him as like the over the top, just, you know,
step right up, folks.
Like, exactly. So I kind of love just the feeling of the scene. Like, it gave me a very intense feeling when we watched it, and part of it is just, wow, it's Jesse. Yeah. But even before Jesse was there, just seeing her standing there, the whole vibe of it was just awesome. And so this is me just kind of reverse engineering, where were those feelings coming from? Like, why did it feel so weirdly weird and important? And then I think the content of their conversation, I think, is mostly fun. It's fun to see Jesse again. It's fun to hear about their worlds crossing in an unexpected way, where she apparently defended Combo after he robbed a nativity scene. Yeah. And then, of course, it ends with Jesse asking, so this guy Goodman, is any good? And Kim says, when I knew him, he was. Yeah. And then she leaves.
Now you know you're stupid if Jesse thinks you're stupid.
Yeah, when he's like...
Especially young Jesse.
Right. Well, he's telling Emilio, like, just because he has a funny commercial, you want to go get him to represent you?
He's the voice of reason there.
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious.
What do you make of... I mean, there's not like too much to interpret here, but that line, when I knew him, he was... Now, do you think there's any sense of like double meaning behind the word good? Like, he was like a better person, like back when he was the Jimmy that I knew, or are we meant to just take it at face value? Like, he was a good lawyer. I don't know him anymore. Like, he is not the person I once knew.
Yeah, that's the double entendre.
But I know he's skilled at what he does.
Like, obviously, Jesse's not asking, morally, is he a good guy?
No,
he's
of
saying,
course not.
Is he a good lawyer? Yeah. And what she's saying is that he was a good man when I knew him. She's not really answering Jesse's question. Yeah. That's how I read it. Yeah. Now,
because I feel like I keep going on some things I interpret on a deeper level. Yeah. And it works out, and on other ones I go and I'm like, maybe it wasn't meant to be looked at that like with such a magnifying glass.
Yeah, and I think maybe I'm about to do that, because I feel like you have to ask the question, like, was it necessary, right? And it's a little bit unfair, because we don't finish every scene of Better Call Saul and say, was that scene necessary?
Right. Because having it be a cameo puts a lot more pressure on it.
Exactly. And I don't care if it's necessary or not. I enjoyed the scene. I already described how important it felt and how it kind of contributed to everything I felt watching the show. But I do think it's an interesting question to ask. And I think it's one that, like you said, because it's a cameo, it puts that pressure on it. People are asking the question. So was it necessary? I think clearly it was not needed for plot progression. But even that, there are plenty of scenes on the show that aren't needed for that. Right? We spent just this very episode... If they just wanted to tell you, hey, Kim's not making any choices in her life, you could do that in the course of 5 minutes. But we spent more than 10 minutes, 15 minutes maybe, just living with the new Kim. And part of the reason for that was not plot progression, but just getting you to feel the frustration and mourning the old Kim. They need to give you time to miss her, right? So I think there are really a couple of roles that this scene plays. I think the first and foremost, It's a fun scene. It would have really felt like a missed opportunity not to have Kim somehow interact with either Walt or Jesse.
Yeah.
That's just such a cool idea. If they don't do it now, they're never going to do it. And I always thought Walt or Jesse. In retrospect, Jesse makes so much sense because there is the parallel between them. Both of them walked into the game and walked out. Walt walked in and died inside the game, right? And they both feel a little bit like victims. Obviously, both of them made their choices. They both did bad things, but it felt like both of them were with somebody that was much more cavalier about just heading headfirst into the cartel business, right?
You made me think just now, which is the parallel between Kim and Jesse. Very interesting. Parallel between, not parallel, but when you compare Walter and Saul, it helps you learn more about Saul. Now, in a sense, you could see both characters as basically you're watching them break bad in their own respective series. But like you said, like Walter basically went into the game and died there, but not without first becoming he won the game. He climbed all the way to the top. He defeated every enemy in his path. In the end, the person that killed him was himself. And he rescued, in the end, he got some form of redemption by rescuing Jesse. Yeah. He won the game and then died at the top in a sense. In another sense, he died at the bottom because he had to flee to New Hampshire and all that. But the point is, he for a time sat on the throne, basically. But Saul, keeping in with his character, he entered the game and then manipulated it and pushed people around and avoided getting his hands directly very dirty. He entered the game and just kind of greased the wheels and learned how to benefit from it without getting too directly involved.
Yeah, totally. And La Cucaracha, right? He didn't win the game, but he survived the game.
Right.
For how much longer? We'll check our YouTube poll shortly and find out. Talking about Walt, by the way, there's such a debate over whether the ending for him was, if it was too kind to him, that did he get too much of what he wanted when he died? And I'd like to talk about that sometime. And actually, after all of this I wasn't intending to plug this now, but it just occurred to me. But after we finish Better Call Saul, you and I are planning to do a Breaking Bad rewatch.
Yes.
Right?
I can't wait to do that. I've been, every time I open up Netflix, I'm like, maybe I'll just start rewatching Breaking Bad. And I'm like, no, I'm going to save it until after Better Call Saul. Yeah.
So just keep an eye out on this space.
Yeah.
We'll figure out the exact format for that, but we're going to be going through the series. And then we can have that debate over, did Walt get more than he deserves? Is that ending fair?
And then after that, we're going to rewatch Better Call Saul.
Yeah, it's an infinite loop.
Yeah, and then after that, we're going to rewatch Breaking Bad.
That's right.
And we'll throw Slippin' Jimmy in there somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere.
We should. I mean, I barely watched any of it. We should have we should talk about it at some point.
Okay.
Maybe there's not enough to talk about there. I don't know.
All right. Keep an eye out. Gene goes home. Makes himself a drink, but without the customary...
the big squirt of lemon that he likes.
Hey, didn't add that this time. And he is confidently expecting a call. I mean, he is cock of the walk right now. You can tell. He sits down, he does the finger wiggly thing to his cell phone. It rings, and Jeff is in jail. Talks to Gene. Yeah, go ahead.
Why is he he's excited for it? Is it just because he gets to, he got his hands dirty before, he's really re-fanning the flames of his addiction, and now he gets to smooth talk?
Well, I think this is the most Saul Goodman he's been yet, because he's about to get on the phone and give legal advice.
Yeah, you're right. He's there to help someone get out of trouble.
Yeah, so I think he is.
Someone who he knows is guilty.
Yeah. This is the happiest he's been in a while. So Gene, like I just said, he basically embodies Saul Goodman when he's talking to Jeff, tells him that because he doesn't have any of the stolen goods physically, he has nothing to worry about. His mom will be there shortly to bail him out. Gene calls Marion to give the update, makes a little slip up though, because he mentions how in Omaha there are no bondsmen, unlike Albuquerque. And
he totally forgot that he was supposed to be Gene.
That's right. Yeah, he completely let it slip for that moment, and it's very believable he would do it right now when he's at the height of just
flying high.
Yeah, and he just got away with something, so he's feeling invincible. So that gives Marion the idea that Gene might be from Albuquerque. She becomes skeptical. So after the call, hits the interwebs. And Gene drives over there singing to himself. Again, like everything is okay. He's feeling good. At Marion's house, he finds her with her big headphones on, watching something, looking disturbed.
Yeah.
He heads inside, and she's watching Saul Goodman commercials. And they reflect in color on his glasses.
That was awesome.
So good. And Gene tries to play dumb. What's that? Marion, you think that's me? Because it's not.
Like, if it really wasn't him, why would his first thought be, you think that's me?
Yeah, because if it wasn't him, it would be the most ridiculous thing in the world. Yeah. Like this weird commercial, this local commercials uploaded to YouTube. Like, it's obviously not me. Are you crazy? Yeah. I'm going to strangle you with this phone cord. So Marion reveals that she went to Ask Jeeves, typed in con man.
I love the mention of Ask Jeeves.
It's so, I mean, ultimately, we will always be able to look back at the series and say, Ask Jeeves.
It's canon.
It's canon. It took Jimmy down. That was the fall of Saul Goodman, which is just so brilliant. But she typed in con man in Albuquerque.
Well, and the fall of Saul Goodman was someone who he underestimated.
Yeah.
Right? Someone he just pegged as easy to manipulate. Like, you could just take it for granted.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, well, like time and time again, we see their hubris kind of leads to some poor decision-making. Marion prepares to call the police. Gene rips out the phone cord. He's like, let me help you with that. Rips the phone cord out, wraps it around his hands.
Assassin style.
That's right. And he menaces her as she pulls out her life alert button. And Gene keeps telling her not to do it. It was like
tough to watch this version of this character. Like, this is a character I really have loved over the years.
Yeah. Even Gene, like even when Saul's been at his worst, I'm very aware of Jimmy McGill beneath the surface. Yeah. This was the first time I watched him and hated him, just purely hated him. Because he looks evil for that moment.
It's like that moment when you realize Walt poisoned Brock.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I can no longer even remotely defend what this person's doing.
Yeah.
Well, Walt had some of his reasons.
Yeah. Well, and there was also the scene where he turned, what's her name?
Jane?
Turned Jane.
Yeah. That's somewhat defendable because she was threatening to ruin the whole thing, and not just for moral reasons, but because she wanted money.
Right. You could at least.
She went into the game when she did that.
Yeah. That was still the part of the show where you could say, look, he shouldn't have decided to sell meth. But if you take that decision and say it's sunk cost, it already happened, and trace everything to here, he is now back to do a corner. She took him on in battle, and he won.
Right.
I'm sorry.
If she just reported him to the police or something, or anything like that, that's one thing. Then she doesn't she didn't deserve to die, or anything. We always have to
Yeah, I know.
But anyway, the point is, she entered the game when she decided to use blackmail.
Yeah, I do know. The reason I brought it up is because I do personally know people. I know people who stopped watching at that point, actually. They were like, I can't watch anymore because I just hate this guy. Why do I want to follow his journey?
That's when I started hating those people.
Yeah. This show's awesome.
Yeah.
So Gene's walking toward her with the phone cord, and he says, final warning. And then Gene actually, I rewatched it, and it's pretty fascinating because Gene grabs the life alert. He has it in her hand.
Yeah.
And then she says, I trusted you. Everything fades from Gene's face. He kind of seems to sober up in that moment. And then he drops the life alert. And he just stands there while she picks it up, calls for help, and announces, there's a wanted man in my kitchen named Saul Goodman. And then Gene runs away.
He scampers off like a frightened coati.
Yeah, that's right. Very much so. And this is the moment that Gene Takovic became Jimmy McGill. That is actually how I read the moment. It felt very much like we were saying that if we're going to use the addict or alcoholic analogy, then oftentimes the only way for someone in that situation to begin the process of recovery, they have to hit rock bottom. And I believe this was his rock bottom moment, is I am about to strangle a senior citizen. Now, on the face of it, we see that group of people as vulnerable people, of course. But then on top of that, we know he specifically has a soft spot for them.
Yeah.
If there was a world where Jimmy kept on the straight and narrow, it may have been elder law.
It was going well for him.
It was.
Yeah.
And again, not that, I don't know why, you always have to get defensive. Not that you need that to feel bad for an elderly woman. They're just vulnerable on their own. But just on top of that, Jimmy does have this soft spot for them.
Well, the soft spot is what made it. First of all, I love that they take that and make it significant to the plot, like all the way to the end. Mm-hmm. It's just really good writing.
Yeah.
But also the soft spot is what makes it believable that this moment could happen.
It reminds him specifically, not just I'm doing this horrible thing, but now I'm thinking about who I used to be.
Right. It has specific hooks into his mind about the past.
Yeah.
And what he used to be like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. He has to look directly into the eyes of this person who he's manipulated, lied to, gotten her son into trouble, mm-hmm. and see the results of what he's done.
Right. And I think that is the kind of top level what is happening in that scene is he's seeing just how awful he's become. But if you take it down a level, what turned Jimmy McGill into Saul Goodman? It was the idea that the world is constantly rejecting him. Mm-hmm. The only place he got acceptance was as Saul Goodman, from his clients. Here, he realizes I actually was accepted by this person, very genuinely accepted by her, and then I was so in my role, I tossed that away. I turned that acceptance into rejection. So he is now, this persona is crafted for himself, is now doing the opposite of what it was intended to do.
Right. And one thing we know about Jimmy is that he kind of craves these social connections with people, and he thrives on it. And he's been deprived of it for so long.
Yeah.
Like, it actually looked like he was kind of enjoying, like, making friends again and talking with people. And to see, and I think for him to realize that, like, he had, that had kind of clashed with his other goals. Mm-hmm. And he ended up taking one of the few things few joys in his life that he had left, or a new joy that he thought he would never have again, that he completely soured it and just totally reversed it. Must have been very a painful realization.
Yeah. I mean, when we were watching the Nippy, seeing Gene become friends with Marion, even though we know it's manipulation, seeing him become friends with Frank and the other guy, like, I felt so good seeing Gene connect with someone.
He's finally a little bit alive.
Right. And and I think finally he's realizing how good that was, and how he just, once you threaten to kill someone, it's hard to
you cross the line.
Yeah.
But to your point, he had something, like some concrete evidence that his worldview was wrong. That, like, he can be accepted, and the world isn't always against him.
Right.
And yet he totally ruined it.
Yeah. So now the question is, where does he go from here? Right?
Apparently
he
out the door, like, really fast?
Well, yeah. So we know he got out the door. Yeah. And he's going to stage right, I think, or stage left.
One of those.
Screen right. But where does he go from here? I mean, if this was truly his rock bottom moment, and now he is possibly seeking redemption or trying to he's got about 55 minutes of screen time.
Yeah.
What does he try to do? Does he try to write things in some way? Does he try to turn himself in? How much? Let's say he's sobered up, mm-hmm. and he's Jimmy McGill again, and he feels bad for all the things he's done.
Right.
I mean, what does he do with that?
Well, then, okay, if that's the case, and it's sort of a lasting impact, why doesn't he just stay there? What's he off to go do?
Right. It seems like he wants to. I mean, it could be, all right, I'm going to turn myself in, but there's something I want to.
Unsettled affairs.
Unsettled affairs. Kim, I'm good again.
Yeah. I got to go talk to Kim first. Right. So, okay. So there's a possibility that, like, he's accepted all of his wrongdoing and he's, like, ready to face the music, but has some stuff to go do first.
Right.
Another possibility is he hit the rock bottom. He had that moment of realization and then backed away from it and ran off again. And he's, like, going to keep fleeing.
Right.
because he was maybe too scared of what he saw.
Yeah, and it's of course oversimplifying to say that was the rock bottom moment, therefore the switch flipped. It might not be that straightforward. It might be it was a sobering moment, and it's like a rock skipping on the ocean.
Like it got too real for him, and he backed away.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that he's now boom. I'm Jimmy McGill again. Yeah. Right. That's kind of oversimplifying it. But at minimum, I do think this moment was pivotal in whatever happens next. And if there is any redemption, I think it began. I think seeking redemption we'll find out it began
when he put the life alert.
Yes, down. When he put it down and basically said, "I'm not going to kill her, and in fact, I'm going to let her call."
That was very
help.
big of him.
Yeah. I guess with that, Adam, any final thoughts on the episode before I check the poll and find out the answer?
This episode is one for the ages. There's like a million things to unpack in every scene, and like there've been a lot of things that I felt were a little bit predictable or played out in kind of a natural way that you might expect this season, especially in the earlier first half.
Yeah.
Especially if you were looking at the episode titles. But with this, there's so many possibilities in my head, and I like gun to my head, I really don't know what I would choose.
Yeah. Well,
hopefully it would just be quick and without any suffering.
I'm going to ruin your reputation first.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hit the reload button.
Okay.
And we're going to find out what is going to happen next week. Oh, okay. 54%. Should I reveal the answer or go in order of
Go in order.
All right. So 16% of people vote.
No. Go in order of least to most.
Least to most. Okay. Better Call Saul finale predictions. How do we leave Jimmy McGill? 5% say other. This is about 1,000 votes.
That's where Jimmy gets a face transplant.
That's right.
And actually, no, that'd probably count as just like getting away with it. So.
Yes, that's right. So it's other. We don't know.
Yeah.
10% said on the run, La Cucaracha style.
I'm surprised that's not higher.
I don't know. I feel like we already saw him go on the run. Are we really going to just repeat that at this point? To me, it feels unlikely.
But I don't think that's how we should be like predicting what's going to happen on the show. It should be more like what's likely for the character to do. Now, it's totally in character of him to be the La Cucaracha and always get away. Maybe this is what's significant about the end of the series is this is when he finally decides to stop doing that. But maybe the series ends with, here we go again. He calls the vacuum guy. Yes, I know the actor is dead. Doesn't mean, but the character's alive.
Yeah.
Maybe he calls the vacuum guy, gets a new identity. He has the money for it, or he could.
For some reason, I thought you were about to say he has the mustache.
Yeah, he already has the mustache. What more do you need?
Mutton chops.
Yeah. He just needs to mix up the facial hair a bit. Maybe start taking some Rogaine or something.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah.
And if the show wants to have kind of a pessimistic ending, I actually think this would be more pessimistic and a darker ending than if he died.
Right.
Like seeing him maybe go out in a blaze of glory or we've kind of talked about how it'd be kind of funny to see like he flees and then he's like there's like helicopters chasing him and he's just like totally backed into a corner, like running into the woods or something. Like probably not going to happen.
I kind of feel like we're going to see some version of that.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I feel like we will. I just don't think it's going to end.
Okay,
with
but
that.
So you think that he is? You think he might just start running?
Well, I think as part of the episode. I just don't think it'll end with that.
Okay, so you think so maybe after that happens he gets caught or something, but basically his conscience struck and hit him enough that he decided to like not threaten Marion or kill her or anything.
Right.
But it wasn't enough to say, I'm going to turn myself in and turn everything around.
My money.
He came up against a barrier. It didn't reflect him off in the opposite
direction.
direction.
I think it might reflect him off in the other direction, but it's like we said earlier, it might be unsettled affairs.
I see.
Or let me go do one last thing.
Right.
Before, and he might not have even thought it through all the way. It might not be before I turn myself in, but before it's just too late.
Before all these wheels are set in motion.
Yeah. So that's I believe we're going to see an on the run scene or sequence.
And I hope so. That'd be cool.
Yeah. So 10% said on the run.
Yeah.
And we have a tie where 16% say dead and 16% say ambiguous.
I think ambiguous is unlikely.
I'm surprised that has any votes, honestly, because I feel like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul well, I don't know. Would you consider Jesse's ending? Well, even that. They went and did El Camino, right?
They can't resist the temptation to complete a story.
Yeah, they don't like ambiguous endings. Yeah. We know they have a distaste for them.
Only one they gave us was Huel, and even that they resolved eventually.
Exactly. Yeah. So, number one, 54% say, let me refresh one more time in case it changed. All right, 54% say jail.
Yeah.
Which I want to say, like, I don't know, I can't picture it, but any one of these you say, I just can't picture it.
Like, logically, jail sounds very likely because his identity was just discovered. They know where he is. They know who he was pretending to be. They have all this information. So jail sounds super likely. But the fact that it sounds so likely makes me think it might not happen.
What if it's his brain breaks and it actually becomes Jimmy, Gene, and Saul are three different personas. And so institutionalized.
They like separate like Agent Smith, like right in front of us.
But we're seeing it from his perspective.
I see, but in real life, he's
running
lost
around
his
like
mind.
So I don't know. I can't wait to find out. I don't want the show to end, but they're also doing such a good job of. I mean, we've said it so many times, but it feels like we're in epilogue territory now. So it just, I'm having an easier time letting go than I would for a show where we're heading into the final episode and it feels like there's not enough time left.
Right.
But here,
they've eased us into it.
That's what it is. They've eased us into it. So I don't want to let go, but in some sense, I feel ready to let go. I feel ready to see how this all ends. Before we wrap up, we need to talk about our plans for the Better Call Saul finale. It's the end of an era for Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. It's also the end of an era for One Take / Saulcast. We've said it a few times, but Saulcast is where it all started for us. It all grew from there.
And that's where it's all going to end.
That's right.
No.
We always do this. Yeah. This Monday is the finale. We've got to celebrate. You know how we like to do that. We do these watch parties. But this one's got to be epic. So basically, the finale airs at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We are going to go live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, right? That's when everybody gets off work. And if you're like us, and I think many of you are, you will be able to think of nothing on Monday besides the fact that the finale is impending. Yeah. So instead of sitting at home in your own filth, just
the cesspool you call your home,
just waiting for it to start, wait with us. It's going to be very casual at first, and I think as the night goes, things will get more and more intense.
Yes.
And I'll wet your beak a little bit to get you even more excited. I'm not going to reveal everything. I can already tell you're going to be like, whoa, don't tell them about that yet. I'm going to keep it pretty vague. But basically, when Breaking Bad ended, we had we knew Better Call Saul was coming. So there was that silver lining. There's nothing like that now. I mean, they're saying it's over. I can't accept that. So we've taken it upon ourselves to how do I put
fill
this?
To fill the void.
Yeah, Vince Gilligan, Peter Gould, don't worry. We're taking the reins. Yeah. We're working on the next thing. We've created something that I can't officially say it's in universe, but unofficially.
But it is.
Off the record. Yeah. So that's going to premiere, let's say, 8 p.m.?
Yeah.
Okay, 8 p.m. So at 5 o'clock Eastern Time, we're going to be chilling, hanging out, waiting for the show to start.
We're talking costumes, viewer call-ins.
That's right.
Trivia?
Maybe some trivia. We'll definitely come up with some fun stuff, but at minimum, costumes, call-ins.
And just general chit-chat.
Yeah, that's right. There'll be a Zafiro Añejo
like
for everyone
the way, these podcasts are pretty tight and structured. We go scene by scene.
Yeah.
This is going to be more like when Saul is just like dilly-dallying around the guy's house, like with the urn.
Ah, you're a hat guy, I see.
At some point, I might smash Gil over the head with something.
Probably.
Yeah.
That's probably going to happen. But then as the night goes on, as we get closer to the premiere, things will get a little bit more intense. And at 8 o'clock, we will premiere this thing that we're talking about.
Yes.
You will not want to miss it. Trust me. And we might start the stream a little bit early, too, if we feel like it.
Yeah. 5 p.m. is when the casuals will join.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we've been floating the idea of doing a 24-hour stream.
Which people said don't do it. They were...
Oh, a bunch of people said we should.
Well, some people said we should. That's true.
Yeah. I don't think it would be healthy. But I'm still very tempted to. We're not going to do that. But
we're probably not going to do that.
We might not do it. But very good chance we'll start before 5.
Yeah.
Even for that's like the pregame, like very casual part. And then at 5 is when things start ramping up until it hit the freaking accelerator all the way down Bad Choice Road.
Yeah. We'll see you there. Oh, I did want, there's something I wanted to talk about. So there's something pretty cool coming up.
Oh, yeah.
If you ever looked at the Zafiro Añejo bottle, or you looked at that jar that Jimmy peed into and then drank out of.
The Cliff Maine, the Davison Maine bottle.
Yeah, that's right. And you thought to yourself, I want to have that. You actually
Complete with pee.
With the pee, with Bob Odenkirk's pee. You can actually buy this stuff. Prop Store is hosting an online auction. We'll put a link in the description if you want to go sign up.
This isn't like sponsored or anything, by the way.
No.
We just they told us this is happening. It's like a public information.
Yeah.
But it's like pretty cool that this stuff is like actually out there for sale soon.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be hosted August 18th through September 1st. Propstore.com/Better Call Saul. Put a link in the description so you can find it.
And this is a show that I think more than most, like, objects play. In fact, you did a whole
The importance of objects.
Yes,
that's right.
That's a whole video essay that you did on one take here.
Yeah, this show taught me one of the best filmmaking techniques ever. You know how it's not a novel, right? It's a show. So how do you get people to know what the character's thinking? You have them stare at an object, and then do something. You stare at a tequila stopper, pull a con. Stare at Nacho's father's ID, Manitoba ID. And then go tell him that you're going to get revenge. Yeah. So you were saying something, though. Oh, basically that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Just that, like, this like, the props in this serve, like, really significant roles to the overall story.
Yeah, exactly. I almost didn't want to tell you all about this because it is an auction.
Yeah, there's some things here we really want.
Yeah, so I want to bid on some of this stuff. But, some of the stuff here we already mentioned. Saul Goodman's Davison Maine water bottle with tie.
That's cool.
Charles McGill's journal.
And with the kind of T-shirt that he tied around his head, like just to protect him from the sun. And
and bag. Actually, I saw this very cool video where somebody made a Game Boy game, not a real one, but they made a video.
I watched that too.
Yeah, it's like Saul Goodman Game Boy game.
Saul Goodman Game Boyed.
That's right. Yeah. And you see one level where it's Bagman and he's wearing the shirt on his head, and you have to
it's like a platformer.
Yeah. That was pretty awesome. I mean, good stuff here.
Gus Fring's yellow dress shirt, like Pollos Hermanos, like what he wears when he's a manager there.
Of the stuff you see here, if you had to pick one and I don't even know if
there's a lot more also than what these are just the ones they have pictures of.
Yeah, you can go and see a preview of some of the stuff that's going to be available. But if you could pick one of these, Adam, that you could just have, which would it be?
The tequila stopper.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, actually.
To me, that's the one with like the most symbolism. It's come up so many times. They even make a point of showing it to us in the cold open for this season.
That's right.
Where it falls out of the box onto the road, into the gutter, so to speak.
Yeah, that's right. And it's not just the stopper; it's the bottle
too. Yeah. I would totally drink out of that. Actually, no. Honestly, I would handle them with like white gloves, and I would get them encased.
Yeah, and they're like, you know what? You shouldn't. It's made out of a certain toxic kind of glass. If you drink out of that.
The other one I really love is the University of American Samoa sweatshirt.
Yeah,
and these were worn by the actors.
Yeah,
and I think Ray Seahorn has worn that before.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's right.
So you get two birds with one stone.
That's right. Used space blanket.
Yes,
that's awesome.
By Chuck, plus his journal.
Yeah. So cool stuff. Like I said, I'll put a link in the description. Online auction. You register on the website, and it's going to be going, like I said, August 18th through September 1st.
You know what's they got Werner Ziegler's slide rule encased in the epoxy, like on the stand.
Yeah.
I want all of these really bad.
Yeah, I know. I keep saying, like, I keep wanting to just say, oh, you know what? I want that one. Yeah. I want that one. Yeah.
That. I'm really tempted to just go crazy here. Like,
yeah,
it would be a very bad financial decision.
If you're wondering where all the Patreon money's going.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think last thing before we fully wrap up, I do want to mention the Patreon. I think we mentioned it a couple of times. But I could not be happier with the number of people. I mean, I'm touched. 35 people in the last couple of weeks have signed up for the Patreon.
And we weren't even really talking much about it. There's like
it's like a few plugs, and that money is.
Gil was bashful about it.
Like, I was for a while.
Yeah, I was always kind of saying, "Hey, we should get this thing going," and you were like, I don't want to like push that on people.
These people have given us everything, and now you want to take more?
Just a little.
You've given them everything. Wait, no, you've given them everything. Not everything. Not yet. Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Already putting the money to good use.
Your impression, not the movie.
Thank you. But that thing we were just talking about that's going to come out on Monday, that was not zero budget.
No, that was funded in part by the Patreon.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to good use.
And like that's a thing that's a passion project, and it's there because it's something that we love and something we think like the viewers will love. It's not the kind of thing that we'll put on YouTube and make a bunch of money off of it.
Right.
That's what's good about the Patreon. And I think going forward, there's going to be more things like that, which like we're going to make available to people who are in the Patreon to show them like our gratitude.
Yeah, exactly. And we've already started putting some bonus videos up on there. Did a couple bonus podcasts.
Gil does like confessionals.
Yeah, there is one after the instant take.
Yeah.
If you want to know what happens after the instant take, you can see a rambling video from me at about 2:30 in the morning where I'm like, "Hey guys, I can't sleep. Thought I'd talk to y'all."
It's Gil's vlog.
That's right. Yeah. So we're doing the stuff that we can't talk about on YouTube. YouTube is very mainstream. Behind the curtains, this is where we let our hair down. So check out the Patreon. I'll put a link in the description. Other than that, I would just say, once again, if you don't like to see us and you just want to hear us, check out the podcast. Just search Saulcast in any podcast app. And then we'll...
One Take Podcast.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, once Saulcast wraps up, the place to find all of our podcast content will be the One Take Podcast.
Right. That will kind of pick up right where we left off. There's no way that we won't end up talking about Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad just because they've left such an impression on us.
Right.
But if you want to hear us talk about other things, for example, I didn't use the Patreon funds for this, but I got myself a Super Nintendo. Mm-hmm. Now we have one like in our family's house that like we grew up with, but I wanted one I could call my own. Mm-hmm. I got a Super Nintendo. I've been playing a lot of Super Star Wars for it, and like there's a lot there that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you don't care about video games, but if you just want to hear us talk and have some yucks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if you enjoy the Saulcast flavor, which I've been told tastes like mango. That's what I heard. We're going to bring the Saulcast flavor to just other stuff.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
With that, I'm Gil.
I'm Adam.
And this is Saulcast. I did, out of curiosity, for the cold open, where Saul Goodman's got the bag over his head, and it wasn't me, it was Ignacio. Out of curiosity, I did go back to the Breaking Bad scene, and I tried to cut it together with the Saul Goodman stuff, the Better Call Saul stuff. And you see how well it flows together? Maybe I'll upload that, tag it on to the end here. It's a little bonus gift to the viewers.
Or you should put it on the Patreon.
Oh, okay.
Say like this is like cutting room floor, like it wasn't substantial enough to make its own video.
Okay, yeah.
But I think some of you guys might like it.
Cool. Do I still leave this in? Tantalize them and say,
yeah, you should.
Okay, yeah, because
we were being too nice.
Yeah.
Join the Patreon.
Yeah, you know what? It's no longer a
This
curtain.
isn't cutting room floor. This is top shelf.
Right.
Zafiro. This is the Zafiro Añejo of YouTube videos.
That we're gonna. I called it a curtain, peeling back the curtains. No. It's a gate. And to get through it, you gotta sign up for
We're like
Patreon.
Saul at the gates of hell, encouraging you to come play the game.
Yeah. Do you dare? And if you do, you'll get to see a scene from Breaking Bad cut together with a scene from Better Call Saul. A scene that we deemed not worth uploading.